Okay. Hey, hello everybody. We are live here on a beautiful upcoming 4th of July weekend. Plenty to celebrate, plenty to have fun with, time with our family and friends. But today, um, we are coming to you live from our tasting patio, our beautiful terrace here at Shadybrook Estate Winery. We're sitting in cabana number 3, which is where we host lots of our guests. Lots of food, lots of cheese and wine pairings go on here. Lots of wine educating go on here. And we're going to do plenty of that today. So we're going to pour some of our wines today on the wine side. And we have the pleasure of having Miss Lynn Stray from the Farmstead Cheese Company with us today. So welcome, Lynn. Thank you so much for being with us.
Yeah, absolutely. What better way to spend our afternoon, right? Right before a long weekend.
Right.
So thanks for including us again. We've got some exciting new cheeses compared to last time. So we're excited to be here. Thanks for having us.
Excellent. Yes, this is the second leg in our 9 cheese tour, where we are going to try 3 of the cheeses from Farmstead Cheese and pair them with 3 of our wines. We had to do some very extensive research to figure out exactly which wines to go with which cheese, which was a really rough task, but we muscled through it and we came up with some really nice pairings, and we're going to go through some of those today. So I'm going to start us right off then. And we are going to start with the 2017 Rapp Ranch Pinot Noir. Um, this is a very small production for us. We make just 270 cases, sometimes a little more, a little less. Um, but I would say out of all of our wines, this probably is the sort of the lightest handed winemaking wine that we do. It's very delicate. It has so much intensity and so much strength in such a subtle way all by itself that we sort of don't try and maneuver it and get it to go in any kind of direction other than to show off its sense of place, where it comes from in the Carneros Hills, very near the San Pablo Bay. Um, and all of those delicacies really shine when it is sort of left to itself. Um, we ferment this in open top fermenters, very cool temperatures for a very long, slow sort of extraction period, to get all of those subtle nuances out, but again, very long and very slow so that they all have a chance to kind of integrate and really meld together. It's 100% Pinot Noir. It is 100% single vineyard. Vineyard is called the Truchard Vineyard. A very cool, famous wine growing family that's been in the valley for years and years. They are a pleasure to work with. Our take on this again is to be on the more feminine side of Pinot Noir. Again, very delicate. Not a lot of oak. As a matter of fact, it's the only wine that we make that does not see any brand new French oak. This wine is really just meant to be clean, crisp, very food friendly, and something that is going to age very well with its acid also. Lynn, why don't you tell us a little bit about the cheese that we are pairing with this Pinot Noir today?
Yeah. So first of all, when you talk about sense of place, that's something that at Point Reyes Farmstead, we talk a lot about. And that's really what farmstead means, is that all of our milk that we use in our cheese comes from our farm here, our dairy in Point Reyes. We're just an hour north of San Francisco, so we're only about an hour and 10 minutes from Shadybrook, which they always say, what grows together goes together. So we love these pairings because, you can have cheese by itself, you can have wine by itself, but when you pair things like this, it really gives a new experience, a new flavor profile. So as we taste, we like to, of course, first taste the wine on its own, then taste the cheese on its own, and then like actually do it all together and do it in different order as well. And you might come up with different experiences. So
Absolutely.
there's no wrong or right. I know we've got 3 wines today and 3 different cheeses. So you might want to mix and match the wines with the cheeses as well. Today we are sitting, or I am sitting at our culinary center, the Fork, which is where we typically have our classes that we do, similar to tastings, like what Shadybrook does. We do tastings, we do cooking classes, we do farm dinners, highlight other farmers and winemakers, all the while using our cheese. But the most important part is we start out everything with a walking tour of the farm. And during COVID, I think that's the hardest thing that we've had, is that we haven't been able to have people here and share this experience. And we hope to come back soon, but that's why these Zoom classes are so important. You can also check
Yeah.
out our farm tours as well on our website, so that it kind of just satisfies you in the meantime until you can come back. But last week, if you were with us, or a couple weeks ago when we had our first session, we tried our farmer style cheese called Toma. Toma is exactly that. It really accentuates and highlights our milk, and we want those flavors to come through. It's a semi-hard cheese, and I'm showing you our Toma Provence. So we added some spices and herbs to extend our line of Toma. And today our Toma Provence is what we're highlighting with the Pinot Noir. Back up to Toma for a moment. This, as you can see, it's a semi-hard cheese. That's the variety or category that it's in. And Toma in Italian means wheel of cheese, made by the farmer, him or herself, on the farm, which again defines what farmstead is. Using your milk on the farm, processing that milk into cheese, really keeping that total process in a full loop right here on the same property. The thing about Toma is that it's super buttery up front, and then it's got this nice acidity that balances out that fat in the front end. And so it's just that real, like, everyday, just snackable cheese that makes you want to just keep coming back for more. And I think it's that nice, that beautiful clean balance and that kind of acidity that comes at the very end of this cheese. And because it's so buttery, it lends itself really well to different herbs and spices. And so this one was one of our cheesemaker, Cuba, who, if you join us on our third tasting, I think we're going to get him to join us for a special cheese, our newest one we're going to roll out. But so Herbes de Provence, I always like to smell cheese too first and see if you smell anything from it. I think with Toma, if you want cheese to get to room temperature, so hopefully you've had it sit out for a good half hour, maybe even an hour before you taste cheese or you present it to your friends and family. But this, I get a lot of sourdough kind of yeasty notes when you're smelling it. And of course, with the Herbes de Provence, you're getting, of course, those herbs, which has got marjoram and thyme and oregano and all those great things. It does not have lavender in it, like your typical Herbes de Provence, because we felt that really overpowered the other herbs in this mix. So we chose an Herbes de Provence without the lavender. But why don't you go ahead and taste it and let me know what you think.
Yeah, since we started with doing this on our last tour also, what I think is remarkable about your Tomas, Lynn, is that even though they are flavored Tomas, we had the truffle and we had the straight. Those little flavors, those little additions that you have added in this line of Tomas never really gets in the way of the true Toma.
Yeah.
That savory, that texture, that really tangy quality that is so true to Toma is absolutely there. And this is just a very slight and subtle little bit of excitement that goes with the cheese. I mean, it's so well balanced.
Yeah, exactly. We really wanted, when a craftsperson or artisan is making a product, you want like those true raw ingredients to come through first. And for us, it's that milk and that real butteriness that this Toma and this particular style of cheese that we're making comes through. We wanted the herbs and spices to be in that finish, just like the truffle was. Right. And so you get these layers of complex flavors as you taste it. And so that herbaceousness comes through at the end. And to me, this is probably, one of my favorite cheeses. I know they all are, but because it reminds me, it's like comfort food. It reminds me of Thanksgiving. It reminds me of roasted potatoes or roasted chicken. And by the way, all the Tomas are so meltable. They're super versatile in the kitchen.
Oh
So
yeah.
you could just grate this and put this over potatoes, roasted potatoes, and just have it melt in there. Put it in a turkey or a chicken sandwich, or just by itself with an olive board and a baguette, and it's just a lovely, cheese to snack on.
Oh, that sounds so good. It is
Yeah.
absolutely delicious. You guys, Cuba is just doing a phenomenal job with you guys down there. Um, and I am loving the way it's going with the Pinot Noir. The Pinot Noir has, again, a real purity to it, and it has great acidity and great tang. But the cheese is kind of bringing out some of the more earthy qualities of the Pinot Noir also. I'm getting a little bit more of the tarragon, a little bit more of the kind of the dried cranberry, almost that dustiness that a little bit is in the Pinot Noir. That's really coming out. And the creaminess of the cheese is just kind of letting that wine just glide across your palate, and it's just flavors are coming from all over the place. This is really a great little duo here. Mm.
Yeah, and when you do pairings, you typically will get, like you said, when I first tasted this wine, and I love this Pinot Noir, by the way, it's so food friendly, but I get a lot of the cherry notes. And then when I have it with the herbs in the Toma Provence, it brings out that more earthiness, and it kind of takes that fruit to I feel like it's the ground level of earth and soil, and you get some more of those notes in there. So.
Yeah, it kind of takes that brightness and stretches it out kind of sideways across your palate. And really, you're tasting it with all of your salivary, your glands all over your mouth.
That's really nice. Mm.
So, are you making these cheeses year round? Is there seasonal parts of this for you too? And then also, where are you getting all of those herbs? Are you growing those on the farm also?
No, there's a lot of things we do, but we don't grow herbs on the farm. Well, we
Okay.
do in our kitchen. We have our kitchen garden here for the fork.
Okay.
So we do grow herbs, but not enough for this. No, we're getting them through another an herb company that dries them, and then we go through a process of steaming them and heating them up or heating them up in water before we put them into the vat. So when we add herbs or spices, we put them into the vat of cheese after we've cut the curd, and it sits in the vat for a little while before we actually drain the curds in the whey. And then the curds with the herbs go into the form. This particular style is actually a pressed style cheese. So we press it and then it goes into a brine. It's in a 10-pound wheel, so it's fairly large.
Mm-hmm.
What's interesting is with the different herbs and spices that we use, you sometimes might get a different variation of where the herbs are. We try to get it all, evenly distributed, but sometimes you might have a little bit more than the other. That's kind of all part of hand making cheese.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're really excited.
Very nice. Is online or through your company or directly the only way to get these cheeses, or do you sprinkle them around all over?
It's year round. We make our flavored cheeses, and some of our retailers choose to have it, different seasons. But for the most part, it's available year round. I know locally we've got it at Whole Foods and our local markets like Petaluma Market, and I believe Oliver's has it as well in Sonoma County. So we've got a lot of our regular retailers that carry it as well. And it's online. So you can always get it online at our website at pointraisedcheese.com.
Very nice.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that was a great pairing. I am so excited as I'm looking at this original blue that I think is I'm sorry that I do have a favorite. It is my favorite cheese.
Oh, you mean Bay Blue?
I mean the Bay Blue. I'm sorry,
the Bay Blue.
It
he
is
just
my
likes
favorite.
all blues.
I cannot wait to get into this, and when we did our pairings, this was such a big standout for me how this went with our Rapp Ranch Cabernet. So I am so excited to move on to cheese and wine number 2.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to dive in a little bit about our Rapp Ranch Cabernet. This is a 100% Cabernet, and out of all of the 8 wines that we make here at Shadybrook Estate and Rapp Ranch, it is our largest production. That said, it's only about 500 or 600 cases. Everything else that we make is all around 300 or a little bit less. But what is so fun for me and unique about this Cabernet is that a little bit of it comes from all three of our estate ranches. Um, we have two properties here in the Coombsville area, which is just on the east side of Napa, 10 minutes away from downtown. Um, very, very still near to the San Pablo Bay. So some of those cooler climate and maritime influences are definitely here. This beautiful little afternoon breeze that we are getting is absolutely quintessential and a reason for some of the characteristics we have here in Coombsville. And then we have a ranch that is on the backside of Howell Mountain in a place called Pope Valley. It's a little bit warmer there. Things ripen a little bit more quickly, and it's kind of a shorter season. And the real difference between those two regions here in Napa Valley is that Coombsville kind of is a little bit more of the old world, kind of darker notes, darker tones, a lot of coffee, mocha, chocolate, dark currant, black cherry. And Pope Valley is really quite the opposite. A lot of the really bright red, beautiful flavors and crispness that Cabernet can show come from that property. So we really have a little kind of yin and yang between the black fruit and the red fruit, and melding them all together to where you kind of get the spectrum of all of them is just a mouthful of Cabernet flavor. I think it's such a great representation of Napa Valley when it comes to Cabernet Sauvignon. Even though it's 100% Cab, again, it comes from those three ranches, but from each one of those ranches, we might have 6, 7, 8 different Cabernets. So it really is a huge spice rack of Cabernets that come together to make this Rapp Ranch Cab. It sees a good amount of French oak, a tiny little bit of American oak, and ages for almost 30 months before it's bottled. Really to give it a chance to evolve and change and just be in a nice breathing vessel and truly age while it's under supervision before we just kind of send it off in a bottle. So we're very, very proud of this Rapp Ranch Cabernet. It's a great tool for us, for wine drinkers to kind of get their first little taste of what we do here at Shadybrook Estate and Rapp Ranch. And I, again, am so excited to try it with this incredible blue cheese. So, Lynn, why don't you take it away and tell us all about the Bay Blue?
Yeah. So as if you attended last session, we tasted Original Blue, and I want to talk about the differences because most people know us for Original Blue. That is actually our flagship because that's what we started with, and for the first 9 years, that's all we made was Original Blue cheese, which
Right.
is your classic Danish style. We kept being asked to make another blue. And of course, we said, okay, if we do it, we want it to be something completely opposite, have a different personality, different flavor profile than the original. And so our cheesemaker, Kuba Hemmerling, he created Bay Blue. So Bay Blue is, let's talk about the similarities, is same milk components. It is same molds, but different cultures and different rennets. And different make process. And actually, visually, if you look at it, this has a natural rind on here, and it's more yellow in color, the actual cheese, the curds in between the blue veining. This is a pasteurized cheese, whereas our Original Blue is a raw milk. And then just the flavor profile on the cultures that we use and the rennet, which I'll talk about in a minute, really bring out more sweet and earthy flavors. And so we consider this cheese to be more of a savory and sweet blue cheese. So if you've hesitated on, I don't know if I like a blue cheese, it's usually pretty powerful, and in some cases can be, too pungent or too musty. This one is certainly on the sweeter, savory style, and so it's a great one to try. And it's also like candy, so it can be a little bit addictive. So let's talk about the rennet on this. So there's 3 different types of rennet, and rennet is a coagulant, which is enzymes that we add into the milk during the beginning stages of cheese making. And just to back up a minute, we first add, our milk into the vat, and then we add cultures. And then we're waiting for that acidification for our lactose to turn into lactic acid. And then we add, when the pH gets just right, we will add a coagulant, which is an enzyme, which coagulates the milk. And that is rennet. And rennet comes in three forms. We have a vegetarian, a traditional, and a microbial. So typically in the US, you'll see mostly microbial, which means that it was derived in a lab. And the traditional vegetarian, of course, is an enzyme from a plant base. And then traditional or animal base is an enzyme that was the Europeans used for many years and actually comes from a calf's lining of its stomach. And that's where that enzyme comes from. And that actually imparts some more earthy flavors, some really kind of more brothy, mushroomy notes, and will add to those culture characteristics that are lending to the cheese and the flavors as well. So you'll get something completely different. We played around with this quite a bit and felt that those flavor contributions from that traditional rennet really gave this that more earthy note that comes from this. This cheese is aged we release it at about 2 months. And once again, we really want it to be at that sweet note. And as it ages, that mold will become stronger and more pungent as it gets older. But we kind of like it at that sweet stage. It really hits a note with people. When you taste it, go ahead and taste it. And I'm sure Rudy's already like diving in here.
Taste it. I need to cut myself some more.
So you smell it, and it smells like a maltiness, but a grainy malty, like when you go into a brewery and you smell some of that kind of those malts and those hops that are being roasted.
Like cereal grains.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Roasted and toasted and kind of oatmeal-y. And then when you taste it, getting back to Toma for a minute, there's a similarity here. And I was mentioning that it smelled like sourdough and it tastes very yeasty. Well, with the sweetness that comes from these cultures and that rennet, you get, if you just taste the yellow part and kind of around outside of the mold area, it tastes more like a graham cracker or brioche bread. That's where that sweetness comes in. But we tend to first taste that mold, and then it will kind of finish with that sweeter style or salted caramel, graham cracker. But try it.
I love that combination of the savory and the sweet. Yeah. I mean, as opposed to your original blue, where it is a little bit more pungent and a little bit more acidic. This is just so mellow, and that kind of contrast between the sweet and savory is incredible. And the texture, there's almost a crunchiness as it's gliding across your palate. I mean, it just keeps transforming in your mouth and bringing more and more and more.
It's got a lot of layers of flavor, and with all of our cheeses, you've got a really nice long finish, and it's interesting, it's complex. The texture is it's fudgy, and that's our intent, is to have it be more of that fudgy texture in your mouth, that full flavor.
Right.
It's almost like a bite of something. And but then you do get the crystals in that you're talking about. It gives it nice texture. Those are protein crystals that you'll see typically in aged cheeses, but you're seeing it a little bit here in this blue, which adds another just dimension to it.
Right.
But this one has become such a crowd pleaser. You were talking about your cab being one of your highest volume wines that you produce. This is probably one of our smallest volumes. This probably is only about 10% of our production is Bay Blue, so it's special. We call this a cheese course cheese because it is like candy and you could just have it by itself. Original Blue is the workhorse in the kitchen, we always say, for chefs, because you cook with it, it goes with everything, and it's just a great cheese in the kitchen as well as on a cheese board. But this one, because it's so sweet, it really is, it reaches a wide audience.
Absolutely. And it seems like it's so versatile too. I mean, you could crumble it up a little bit and put it on your salads. There's plenty of places for this can go. I'm already thinking about putting this on my 4th of July sliders. and melting
Oh,
a little
nice.
bit on on those little tidbits of deliciousness.
Yeah,
So,
I love that.
um,
I'm gonna cheat and kind of taste it with the Pinot too, just because. But
well,
so
we always say if the cheeses or the food or whatever you have in front of you is balanced and the wines are balanced, you should be able to kind of flip flop between them all. So, we'll definitely encourage you guys out there to try the different wines with the different cheeses too. Um, it's one of the reasons why your cheeses go so well on our cheese boards here, Lynn, because they are so balanced and they go
oh
with
God.
so many different cheeses and they are
Mhm.
with different wines, and it really changes the flavors in the wine. It brings out more in the cheese. I mean, it's just a flavor delight experience.
Yeah, I love it with the cab. Like you said, it brings out that those kind of um, chocolate notes and cherry notes. It's um, it's really great. And this cheese is because you've got that toasted maltiness. This can really not only stand, I don't want to say stand up to it, but it just kind of enhances those wine, the grape flavors here, that fruit.
Right. You know, they both, neither of these, either the cheese or the wine, are just over the top and in your face.
Right.
There's so much going on, but it's in such a velvet glove kind of fashion that it's really exciting.
This is kind of
Oh,
like your dessert. I like this course for a dessert.
yeah,
You don't need chocolate cake. You just get your Bay Blue and the Rapp Cab.
absolutely, absolutely. That sounds great.
Yeah,
Oh my.
yeah, really good.
Oh, this is so much fun, Lynn. This is so much fun to do with you guys. Thank you again so much for being with us and collaborating with us. This is just fantastic.
Yeah.
Mm,
Well, I
mm,
want to
mm,
tell
mm.
your viewers out there about our great day. We went and picked up the wine last week
All
at
right.
Shadybrook, and talk about beautiful and just a great spot to put all the wines on your big tables there. And I heard some laughter in the background, but it's so great that you're able to open up and really bring in guests again. So
It has been fantastic. I mean, our staff is working harder than ever because there are so many steps we have to go through to keep everybody safe. Um, but everybody wanted to do it, of course, and we're so happy to just have everybody spread out a little bit. We take a little bit longer to go through some of the cleaning processes, so we're not seeing as many guests. That's kind of why we're filling up a little more quickly than we do. But I think everybody really very much appreciates the efforts, and we feel comfortable, and our guests feel comfortable, and we get to go back to life and enjoying food and beautiful cheeses again, and getting back to some little sense of normalcy. So
great.
we are we're happy to be this close to the Bay Area and everybody around us that we can see some of those road trip guests for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Your staff did a great job with all of that, of the protocol with serving and everybody wearing their masks and all that. It was just it was a really good experience and it was comfortable.
Oh, good,
Yeah,
good. I'm glad you had it.
I'll be back.
It was great to have you guys here. Yes, yeah. We should not send each other wine and cheese. We should definitely pick it up in person.
I know it was so much fun. Yeah, absolutely. Do we have any questions from any of our viewers? Does anybody?
No, no one's piping in so far. So, but I know one of our great customers and dear friend Brett Fisher is out there today. So, Brett, if you can see me or if you're there, hello and welcome. Next time you guys are out, you should definitely take a half a day away from the wine industry and head on out to the coast and see the Farmstead Cheese Company, because it is a fantastic experience. It really is so well done out there. Uh, if I were a cow, it would be the happiest place I could be. And as a consumer and a human, it is still one of the happiest places I can go be. So definitely get a chance to do that.
Cows like it. Hey, you know why? Just to finish up with Bay Blue, the reason we named it Bay Blue
Oh yeah,
is
great.
because we reside right on Tomales Bay, and that is our cows' view shed. So they graze right there over Tomales Bay. So we thought Bay Blue would be appropriate. But we always try to connect back to the sense of place and where we're from, and really celebrate that. So Tomales Bay is a big part of it.
Oh, that's great. Now, how long has your family been on that property?
We have been here since 1959. So we just celebrated our
Wow.
60 years on the farm.
Oh,
However,
cool.
I know, really, so we have 20 years in cheese. We had a big celebration planned, and of course, COVID kind of derailed us a little bit. So, but don't worry, we'll
Yeah.
still have a party when we can.
We'll
Um,
celebrate the 21st year.
yeah, exactly. Just like all those 21-year-olds. So, but we've been here for 3 generations in the dairy industry. With my grandfather had a dairy in the town of Point Reyes, and then my father continued that with this dairy on this property here. And my sisters and I now run the business, the dairy and the cheese side of it. My dad is still very much involved. He probably wouldn't want me telling you this, but he's turning 83
Oh my
next
gosh,
month.
Bob.
So he's still very involved, like every farmer. They do not retire.
No.
Yeah, and so we are milking 370 Holstein cows right now. We've had to downsize a little bit because of COVID, and of course, all of our restaurant customers had to, stop. So that affected us quite a bit. And but the cows keep milking, and so we're putting milk in the vat, and we're still making cheese, and trying to accommodate that and balance out our milk flow, our cheese, our aging rooms.
Yeah.
So it's like everybody else. We're pivoting. Every day is a challenge, new opportunity to solve a problem, which is why I love our wino clocks here with you, Rudy. It's always nice to
Right.
add the
Right.
fun to it.
Yeah, we're just inviting everybody in. It's not like last night, the night before when we were doing it too, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So,
All right. Well, I think it is time for our third tasting experience here today. Um, we are going to pair the very last cheese from Farmstead with our Rapp Ranch Cutters Reserve. Cutters Reserve is a Bordeaux style blend, but a very unconventional blend. Most of the Bordeaux blends are largely based around Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, and Merlot. Well, we decided to kind of flip flop upside down and go really, really heavy handed on what is normally a very small part of a blend, and that is Petit Verdot. We have Petit Verdot on 2 of our properties, both the Pope Valley and the Shadybrook Estate. And there's a little bit of both of those, again, to bring some of that dark notes of Petit Verdot and some of the brighter notes of Petit Verdot to really be the foundation of this wine. Now, Petit Verdot is oftentimes seen as kind of the biggest, kind of roughest, toughest, gruffest of the Bordeaux varieties. It probably has the least polish of them all. It has the more rustic tannins, kind of a more chunky, again, rough around the edges mouthfeel to it. Lots of tannins, and not such fine, refined tannins, but a little bit more aggressive tannins. So now that being said, we wanted to contrast it with something that is going to, again, make it a balanced wine. So we have chosen 3 other varieties. We have some Malbec, we have some Merlot, we have Cabernet Franc, and we have Cabernet to go with it. So of those 3 varieties that we blended into the Petit Verdot, since we again have so many different sort of looks at those and different options, we chose kind of some of the softer, more elegant Cabernets, softer, more fruit-forward Merlots, and some of the softer and more aromatic Cabernet Francs. So we have, again, contrast, sort of really heavy, rustic, earthy, more masculine Petit Verdot, and some other softer notes to kind of guide and balance it all out. I think when it comes together, it is a pretty big wine. It does have a lot of girth to it, but the finish on it is very juicy and very refreshing, some really interesting spice flavors, and tremendous length. I mean, this is a wine that between the tannins and the fruit and the acid is going to age gracefully for 10, 12 years if you have the patience. I'm going to drink this 2016 wine tonight, but anyway, it is sort of the high point of our Rapp Ranch line, and I think a great way to finish up this cheese tasting. So, Lynn, when we tasted these wines, we were kind of on the fence with which one was going to go with this. But after tasting it a couple of times, because we had to do it a couple of times, it was clearly Gouda.
Hard homework.
And really cool to see it come to fruition here live today. So when did you guys start making Gouda?
We actually started making Gouda probably about 9 years ago, 10 years ago now. Well, as I mentioned, we only made original blue for the first 9 years. And people kept saying, "Yo, make another blue, make another blue." Well, we decided that as our second cheese that we would bring to market really needed to be a non-blue. So Bay Blue actually came out later. And our second cheese to market ended up being Toma. But in that process of developing Toma, our cheesemaker, Kuba, had started experimenting. We wanted to see, what our milk tasted like in an Alpine style cheese, what it tasted like in a Gouda, a traditional Gouda. And then with the combination of cultures and the make process, we landed on Toma being, as we felt, just a great everyday cheese.
Mm-hmm.
But we hung on to the Gouda. So it was one that was developed early on. But we aged it for 2 years, which was another reason we knew we didn't want it to just be this everyday cheese, because it's kind of like wine. It's like you've got assets sitting on your shelf for 2 years. And so Gouda really has only had about 4, almost, I guess, 5 releases now. And we kept it as part of our library of cheeses because, once again, we didn't make very much of it. We actually make less of this than we do our Bay Blue. It's in a traditional 20-pound wheel. It is pasteurized. We've brought the age down a little bit as we've progressed through the years. It's this one, I believe, is at about 16, 18 months old. But what we wanted was this just real true Gouda flavor. One that has a lot of butterscotch notes, caramel notes. It's made in the traditional Dutch style, which means it's a washed curd cheese. And for those of you who are always thinking about, washed rind, that's different. That's when you apply like a secondary bacteria onto the exterior of the cheese to generate different breakdowns and different flavors coming from the outside. But a washed curd is where we, after we do a pre-draw and we let out some of our whey before we put the curds into the forms, we actually wash that curd with warm or hot water. And what that does is it kind of slows down that acidification process. And the curds kind of, they firm up and they hold on to the lactose that's in that curd. So that's what kind of brings that nutty, that sweet flavor that comes with Gouda. And we do this similar process with our Toma. Toma is actually made in the Dutch style, but we use different cultures to where we can release it a lot at a younger age at about 3 months. So very different and much not as strong in its ending flavor, like what you're going to get, the richness that you get from a Gouda. We then press it and then it goes into a brine and then it goes on our shelf in our aging room. And then this big 20-pound wheel we'll have there from, like I said, 16, 18 months, sometimes 2 years. And we have to flip it on a regular basis. So it's a lot of labor of love that goes into these style of cheeses. So you can even just, once you smell it, you smell that sweet butterscotch note.
I absolutely smell the butterscotch and this beautiful like burst of like toasted nuts, like toasted walnuts, toasted almonds, almost like Marconi almonds, that kind of flavor.
Yeah, and you'll get, because of the age, you'll get some of those protein crystals.
Right, I definitely get that texture.
It's similar to like a Parmesan, gets those protein crystals as well because of the age process. But because it's so old, you would think that it would be drier. This is actually, it's got a really nice creamy mouthfeel considering the age of it. This cheese is done very well whenever we enter it into contests. as well as chefs love this cheese. So this is not as widely available. It's available online or at here at the Fork. And then we have some chefs that that have purchased it for their restaurants in San Francisco, which is it's a really nice honor to be on their list. But this is just a great classic style Gouda or Gouda cheese. And so pairing it, it needs to have a wine that's got that kind of forte, that body that can stand up to this mouthfeel and have some tannins. So I have a feeling these two are gonna go really well.
They go great together. You know what it sort of does, for me, it softens some of that masculine tannins that are in the wine and brings out some of that sweetness and some of that richness that maybe the Merlot, maybe some of that softer Petit Verdot are in there. It really, really is kind of, again, elongating and expanding the wine.
And you can taste it in the mouth. You're just salivating right here, and it just really gets your
Oh
glands
yeah,
going.
yeah,
But I love texture. Don't forget about texture when you're tasting cheese and what that does in your mouth. Especially then when you pair it with a wine like this with the tannins. It's the acidity too that also just, it's so well balanced. It just makes you want to take another bite, another sip. So it
yeah,
keeps bringing
absolutely.
you back.
So we age our wine for, again, almost 30 months. It's 28 months, and it's in our French oak barrels. And um, our aging room is sort of like a wine cellar, 60 degrees and 60% humidity. When you are aging a cheese for up to 2 years, is it a refrigerant? I mean, what is yours? What is the humidity? What's the sort of the climate of your aging facility?
Yeah, so it depends on the variety of cheese and what the outcome is. And so, for example, with blue cheese, when we first make blue cheese, it's milk in the vat. You add your cultures, you add your rennet, you add your mold, and mold comes in a liquid form, and so it's clear. And so when you hoop the curds into the form, you don't see any blue veining. It needs to go into a
Yeah,
high humidity, higher temperature curing room for a certain amount of time, and that's where the blue veining occurs. And then once we get the development of that bacteria, then we put it into a colder aging facility so that it slowly continues to age at its own pace. So we're really playing with those temperatures a little bit more for that particular style of cheese because we're working with those molds. With the Toma and the Gouda, it pretty much goes in when it comes out of the brine tank. It goes into an aging room that's in, the low 50s, and it stays in that same temperature. So it's similar to, when you're cooking, you want to slow things down, you lower your temperature. Depends
right.
on how long you're trying to age a cheese, or if you want to kick everything into gear and get those bacteria really growing and spur some activity, you pump up the temperature.
Yep,
But
absolutely.
temperature and humidity is so important in cheese making and in an aging room because you can lose a lot of yield from a cheese if it's not getting airflow, if the temperature and the humidity is not set at the proper levels. So it's something that you really watch. Aging cheese is an art unto itself, really. It's the affinage stage where people are really taking care of those cheeses. They're churning them, so there's constant airflow,
Right.
constant movement of that cheese, as well as developing the rind is really important. You want a thin rind. You don't want a rind that is going to take up a lot of the paste and the space of the interior
Sure,
of the
sure.
cheese. So there's a lot of science and attention that goes into an aged cheese. And especially when you're talking about a 24 or 18-month-old cheese. And if you have it in a room, so when you're making wine, you've got all these different barrels. It could be at the same temperature, but you're not afraid that the wine or there's a culture that's in a particular wine or yeast that's going to jump onto another barrel, right?
Well, not an hour cellar, of course.
But is that possible? Because
No.
cheese, you're really cautious of, blues go into one aging room. We have to have different aging rooms for our different cheeses.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
They
No,
don't
we wouldn't have
cross.
those issues. Yeah.
Yeah, so the cultures and the molds don't cross contaminate each other, and in certain
Right.
flavors you don't want.
Wow, I thought the complexity of making wine was quite a bit, but I am not going to be a cheesemaker anytime soon.
Well, I would love to add wine to our category. Yeah, cheese is not easy. It's a living thing as well. I mean,
Right?
wine is too. It's constantly changing. And then we're working with, yeah, what is that lifespan with cheese? So when
Yeah.
we ever get any questions about cheese, we always ask. The first thing we ask is, okay, well, what's the lot number? We'll try to figure out, when did we make it? What's that lifespan look like? Because eventually, cheese does have that whole curve and
Sure.
will die off, basically, just become bitter. And so you want to have it at its most enjoyable point. And so we put usually a best by date on our product so that you know when it's going to be at its premium and its optimum, just like you do with wine.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when so the staff at Shadybrook went out to the point where to the Farmstead Cheese Company
Mhm.
a couple of years ago or whatever, and your educator or your host that we had was so fantastic, and I learned so
Yeah.
much about cheese, and she brought out some great examples of something that was aged for this many months and this many months, and how it changed and how it went, and sort of how it did run its course
Yeah.
and different temperatures. We had cheeses that came right out of the refrigerator and ones that had warmed up for 30 minutes, some that were at room temperature for over an hour, and how it changed the flavors and how you appreciated the cheese. It was an absolute, it was such a cool education.
Hmm.
Not only did we learn a lot about raising cows, but then what the product of their milk does, and the different ways of enjoying it. I mean, it's a great experience, people. You have got to get out there and check out the Farmstead Cheese Company. It's really awesome.
When we're done with COVID, which I hope is sooner than later, but I have a feeling it won't probably be till next spring. When we fully open again, we would love to have you and your wine club come out and we'll do a winemaker dinner and pair
Oh,
your
that would be
wines with our
great.
cheeses, and that'll be a lot of fun. So, and
Oh,
we'll
that
do a
would be a
little
ton of fun.
yeah.
Um, I did do a little cross here and tried a little bit of the Bay Blue with the Cutters Reserve, and it's absolutely ridiculous. This has been so much fun. It's just, it's almost a little overwhelming having this many flavors and this much enjoyment going on
We picked like
in one
a
place.
lot of this, a lot of the really bold flavors, but
Right.
once again, these can be desserts for you.
Oh,
Forget about
absolutely.
baking, just get cheese and wine, and your friends and family will love you for it. And it'll be easy to
Who
make.
needs chocolate? Who needs pot de creme? Who needs any of that stuff? This is this could be three courses right here,
Yeah,
just like it is.
absolutely. So
Um,
super fun.
so great, Lynn. Again, thank you so much for coming on board. Um, it was great trying the white wines with some of the softer cheeses, and now this next step, we have yet a third leg to go, and that is going to happen on Thursday, July 16th, same time, 4 p.m.
Hmm.
We are going to try a brand new cheese of yours, right? The Quinta is going to be there.
Pinta. Hmm.
Was I supposed to say that? Was I not supposed to say that?
No, 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 no. It's great. We just kind of did a little soft launch on our social media last week and had it for sale, and it sold out. So I
I'm
feel like
sure
this
it
is
did.
actually, everybody was like, oh my gosh, you gave it to Shadybrook. And I go, oh yeah, we got to do that with the wines. So
Well,
it's
Mike,
not,
Kimberly, and I just tried it for the first time just before we got started here today, and we're off our face about it. It's so good. We're going to pair those next three wines with our headlining wines, all of our big Shady Brook Reds. We're going to try our Malbec. We are going to try our Estate 5 blend, our sort of more classical style Bordeaux blend, and then the king of our castle, the Cabernet. And we're going to pair that with the Quinta. So definitely look forward to seeing you all, and please join us for that July 16th event at 4 p.m. In the meanwhile, I hope you enjoyed the cheeses and the wines today. We had some great combinations here. Again, some of these cheeses are very exclusive. You have to go to the Farmstead website for some of these small productions. Best way to get our wines is probably online too. We're running really low on a few of these. The Cutters Reserve is just down to the last few cases and doesn't come out again until the fall. So if you want to grab some more of this one, this is the time. Um, Lynn, this is just too much fun.
Yeah, it's great.
Thank you so much for sharing and your day with us, and all of your knowledge and experience with the cheeses. Say hello to the whole gang again, of course, for us.
I will. And next time I'll grab Cuba, our cheesemaker.
Oh yes,
Yes.
I would love to meet Cuba. That'd be great.
Yeah, he'll love being a part of this too, because he loves his wine. He actually makes a little wine on the side, so he'll probably have a lot of questions for you.
Oh, very nice. Okay, well, I'll be looking forward to that for sure. So, all right,
Thank
well,
you so much.
stay safe, be well, have a really safe and fun 4th of July weekend. And again, give our best to everybody out there on the farm.
Thank you. Happy 4th.
Happy 4th. Cheers.